Welcome to You Got to Laugh to Keep from Crying. My name is O.W. Sweeney, and I'm the co-host of this show with my brother and longtime friend, Richard Quartz.
Good
How
to
you
see
doing
you.
again, brother? Back together again, as the
Yes,
song
sir.
says. Back together
Yes,
again.
sir.
And before we get into a little conversation here,
Yeah.
we should do honor
To our
the
sponsor.
the North Carolina Triad Jobs
with
Justice, where you can reach us at
336-272-2758.
You know, I'm hoping our audience understand when we say with justice.
Because we
that
yell
we're
it.
talking-
Because
yeah,
we yell
yell
it. Because
But
we mean it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
mean it.
Yeah.
And also, what we mean is that people should have a living wage.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
so they don't have to
A
go out
job
here and
with
struggle.
justice.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. They don't have to go out here and work 3 jobs and take care of their children at home too, which is kind of an impossible thing to do.
Right.
So
Right. I'm glad you laid that out today.
yeah.
And I'd like, since this is the last show that we're doing in February,
Yes.
Black History Month,
Black History Month.
and then we'll continue to uphold Black history the rest of the 11
That's
months of
right.
the year, since that's an absolutely important, vital part
That's right.
of being part of the United States.
Of building
and
the
the
United States.
world, and the world.
Building the United States of America specifically.
Yeah, and the world.
Yeah.
But I'd like to quote somebody that you and I have a great deal of admiration for,
Okay.
and that person's name was Malcolm X.
Yes.
And he talked often about by any means necessary. So I want to raise with our viewers today that I was pleased yesterday or last night that Arab Americans, very well represented in the
State of Michigan.
state of Michigan and dominant in the city of Dearborn, that in that Michigan primary,
State
in the Democratic side of the primary, that the Uncommitted, that's kind of a deceptive name.
Yes, it is.
That about 13% of the people that voted in the Democratic primary voted uncommitted. And what they meant was that they were trying to get Biden to stop his reactionary, bloody commitment to Netanyahu and the Israeli settler regime, and to begin to take notice of the fact that in Michigan, thousands of people, to start with, want an immediate ceasefire and an end to the slaughter of the Palestinian innocents by the settler regime of Israel back to the hilt.
Well,
by
I'm
the
going to object to that
weapons
word.
from the
I'm going to
U.S.
object to that word, settlers.
You can object to it, and we can fight it out.
Because I don't think they're settlers. I think they're invaders. They went in there and took another human being.
Well, that's what a settler is when you come and occupy someone else's land.
No,
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to use invader.
Well, you use invader, and I use settler.
Okay.
That's the same.
Okay.
But I was
The
really
settler seems so gentle.
not to me. It doesn't.
Okay then.
Yeah.
All right.
The fact that these people who've been Democrats, and you know my feeling, and I know your feeling is close to mine, that the Democrats, I'm not going to paraphrase you, but the Democrats, the Democratic Party, not the people that vote Democrat now, as opposed to the absolutely white supremacist domination led by Trump of the Republican Party. I'm not talking about the Democratic Party voters, except for the fact that, as you and I both know, that generally speaking, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are two sides, two faces of the monster of U.S. imperialism.
Wall Street.
Particularly Wall Street, yes. So it was a really good thing. The folks who were organizing this, it's kind of ironic, the uncommitted vote, basically just about got 50% more people to participate than they had said was, their goal at that point. And it's nice to see that the Democratic Party and its hacks in MSNBC and CNN and NPR and all, who will never acknowledge the invaluable role of the left wing, but only concentrate on this empty equivalency they make of that everybody should be in the middle in this country. So I think this is a trumpet call.
A question I got to ask, the middle of what?
Yeah, right, exactly. the middle, right up Wall Street's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was an encouraging thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I sometimes believe that this country have a revolution every election day because you have a right to throw the people in office out of office.
Yeah, and if we didn't have monopoly capitalism and imperialism, that pays the dollars to skew the elections and all of that.
That just seemed to me to say in another way, we got the best paid politicians in the world, or the best bought politicians in the world.
The best politicians money can buy. I think that's the way you phrased it, usually. But at any rate, so I was encouraged to see that really a left, meaning an anti-imperialist, and peace loving side of the Democratic Party alternative. That is what these folks in Michigan that organized this Uncommitted. We need more, and you and I would be much happier if we had a lot more uncommitted people in the United States like them, and leave the people of Palestine alone. Get off their backs.
Yeah, I understand it, but the thing is, we're going to have to see what effect is that going to have on Joe Biden. Because really, just being uncommitted doesn't say too much. It just means that they're not going to vote for him. But what he have to understand is that uncommitted vote is a leverage for Trump. And is he willing to give up that leverage for Trump? So we understand there's a large Jewish money in this country that donate or buy a politician. And they're more afraid of not being reelected than anything. They're not really afraid of the small people or the voters, I'm really going to say, because they always lean towards Wall Street, and Wall Street always contributed the big dollars.
But I don't know how you got the Jewish people into that thing.
Well,
because now, for once, we finally
you got to realize. Hold on now. You asked me a question.
I did.
You got to realize that when someone runs for president of the United States, they ask a question: do you support Israel?
Okay. But that isn't necessarily all Jewish people.
Well, I understand this here. Right. But what it's doing is making a large present that you must support this country.
You mean Israel?
Israel, yeah. You must support Israel rather than asking them, who do you support here in the United States? Do you support the indigenous people? Do you support the black, the Irish, the Jewish, the people of this here country who they should be worried about? It's not a question that they ask. The other that I've never heard nobody ask. In the other country, do you support the United States?
Well, let me just say this about the issue of of North Africa, and
thank you.
And what's called the Middle East, and that is that at least for the last 50, 55 years, since 1970 in Amman, Jordan, when the King of Jordan at that time, at least, was a CIA paid, the royal king of Jordan was a CIA paid agent, and they massacred the Jordanian king and his army. Participated in a massacre of the Palestinian people in 1970, and at least since then, as you have pointed to, the state of Israel actually was already the #1 recipient of U.S. aid, and it was in the form mainly of U.S. military aid. But the #2 recipient in the world of U.S. military aid, at least since then, has been the Egyptian regime. And that's why in Egypt, that's why Egypt was the biggest tumult in the time of the Arab Spring, because at least half the wealth in Egypt is owned and controlled by the Egyptian military, thanks to the billions of dollars in U.S. aid that Egypt has received. So there's a little. We want to be careful not to fall into the idea that either Israel or Egypt, or now Saudi Arabia, under that murderous crown prince, what is his, MSB, I think, is his initials.
No,
they don't even. That they're controlling things when it's really the U.S. imperialists and the oil companies and so on.
Which brings you back to the Shah Iran and why the United States so hated over there, because they were buying him as well.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. They installed him. Yeah. Actually, they overthrew the U.S. Marines under the U.S. imperialists. Overthrew Mossadegh, who was the elected leader of Iran, and that ever since that was in the early 50s. So look that's a hell of a long time ago.
That's right.
But I want to congratulate the Democratic forces, including Congresswoman Tlaib, the only Palestinian person in the U.S. Congress, yes. and who has taken a gutsy stand herself, independent of Biden at this point, and in defense of the rights of the Palestinian people in Palestine for self-determination. And that this was a real accomplishment last night in the Michigan primary.
I wouldn't say she took an independent stance. I think she just stood up to say what the people she represented, who she represented, what they're all about,
right,
and what they're concerned about.
Right, but you would
that is her job.
But how many of the others are doing their job?
Well, I understand that.
Okay,
I understand
so that's why I'm giving her her due respect.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. But I just want to make sure that people understand that she's doing for what her constituency want her to do,
exactly.
Represent them.
Right, right. And it would be such a better place in this world, the United States I'm talking about, would be if we had more representatives representing their constituents.
Well, I wouldn't, I kind of argue, disagree with that.
Go ahead.
because of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, their people, their constituents send them up to the Congress to not legislate, but to disrupt Congress, as far as my opinion. Because you have to understand that you send someone up there with an absolutely stance that I will not negotiate with anybody, or I will not. That is not what the Congress is all about. It is a place where you're supposed to come to a consensus. That means you take some of their ideas, some of your ideas, and you mix it together, and you come up with something that benefit the people as best you can.
But there's just about nobody there
that
fits.
That.
There's just about nobody there, O.W., that fits that description.
I understand that.
And Sister Tlaib, this fine Palestinian woman and Congresswoman representing, the state of Michigan, I'm going to give her proper respect.
I want to
absolutely.
Okay. Yes, I understand that.
And speaking of giving people their proper respect,
the North Carolina Triad job with justice,
yeah,
which can reach us at 336-272-2758. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's another entity that deserves some recognition, positive recognition. But you and I have another area of agreement around Fani Willis, the outstanding district attorney in Georgia, in Fulton County. And the reason that we can be so admiring of her is because in the first 24 hours that she was elected district attorney by the people of that county
district,
yeah, she saw, to her amazement, and people all over the country saw to our amazement, or heard the thug,
then
Trump,
President of the United States,
yeah, the thug president of the United States at the time, Donald Trump, and some of his fellow thugs, like Giuliani, were on a telephone call trying to intimidate the Georgia Secretary of State.
Republican.
Also a Republican
Secretary of State.
Absolutely. But somebody who has some integrity.
That's right.
And was smart enough to tape that damn phone conversation in which they tried, Trump and his thugs, tried to muscle him into finding just 11,780.
Let's not say muscle. Let's just say bully.
11,780 votes, or in other words, whatever the number of votes Trump would need to win Georgia, which showed that he was admitting that he didn't win Georgia.
That's right.
Right. That was one aspect of it. But ever since then, the district attorney of Fulton County, who heard it, was preparing a case that is better, that's stronger than the federal case that came much later, much later.
That's right.
And that Biden and Merrick Garland failed to bring.
Yes.
And she has represented, since then, the biggest threat to Trump's liberty, Trump the criminal, remaining at large. And it's worth noting, because Trump's been tiptoed around by just about all the media, almost all the Republicans, and most of the Democrats as well. And he looks pretty good right now. If he's not convicted, if he's convicted, it's clear that there'll be a number of Republicans that will not vote for him.
That's right.
And that would take care of that issue if he's But if he's elected by hook or by crook, and probably by both, that means that the only case that if he's convicted in that case, that he'll still go to prison is the Fulton County, Georgia case as part of this RICO structured case that Fani Willis and the man that she's supposedly been involved with, Mr. Wade, who I think has been her chief prosecutor in the case, they've already they've already gotten 4 significant Republican Trump thugs to turn state evidence and to admit to their own guilt.
That's right.
And to be cooperative. So this is the reason why Fani Willis is under this vicious attack. And it has nothing to do with
the facts.
It has
of
nothing
what
to do
Trump
with
done.
Or the others.
That's
right.
The fact
right.
of what Trump does, except for they was together, and now they're going to try to find any way they can to try to get her off the case.
Right.
Because she's on him, as they say in the hood.
Yeah.
Like white on rice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's right. And that's right.
And not only she on him like white on rice, she got the facts to back her up.
Right. Right. Yeah. She's marshaled the facts.
That's right.
To back it
That's
up.
right.
Right. Yeah. And the big difference between Fani Willis and most of the rest of all these talking heads, all these politicians and all of that, who talk about that Trump is a menace and talk about Trump as a fascist, is that she functions in a serious way.
That's right.
She is about having justice, not
right.
just for us, but for everybody. And that includes putting him where he belongs.
Because a lot of people don't understand this theory. They say no one is above the law, but they're trying to put Trump above the law.
And
so even he, when he quote that anything he does as president, he can't be held accountable for,
right.
Because the president have immunity.
Yeah.
But really, he do have immunity. As long as he's president, once he out of that office of president, he can be prosecuted.
And you're probably mainly right, but even as president, if there are certain things that if he does, they can still be.
I understand.
But in general, I know you're
basically the president got to be held accountable by Congress. Okay, that's why they have the impeachment proceeding.
Right. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. I'll go with you on that.
So you can't bring a criminal act against him because that's up to Congress. And for somebody who was elected once as president of the United States and
well, he had 3 million less votes than Hillary Clinton did. So it was just a facet of the electoral college system.
That's right. That's right.
That
something
protects.
That we have differences on. But,
yeah, that's right. But yeah, everybody's vote should count. And
it does count.
It
just don't count in the way you want it to count. Because if you notice,
okay, I don't want to get into
Barack
it again
Obama
right
was elected, nobody cried about the electoral vote.
Because it didn't change the outcome.
But it was the same process.
Listen, this thing goes back. It goes back to 1876.
Okay, I ain't arguing with that either.
And when the federal troops were pulled out of the South, and the white terrorists took over. So that was the first time that the person who got less votes, Rutherford B. Hayes, was placed in as president. So that's the kind of reactionary stuff that went down with that. But I do want to point out, O.W., that among the stations on TV that supposedly claim to be serious about opposing Trump and his fascist drive, and they sound good saying it. You have people like Jake Tapper, who talked about the idea that Fani Willis had been, and Wade, Mr. Wade, had been stunningly reckless. But I haven't heard him say boo about how absent without leave the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, has been throughout all these years now since January 6th, and how it took a courageous January 6th committee that included 2 Republicans, as well as the Mississippi congressman, the only black congressman from Mississippi, leading that committee with Cheney, with Liz Cheney, the Republican, to even force the federal government under Biden to act at all.
That's right.
Yeah. So we need to close with this. I think we've made a few points worth our
audience, but
in our unity lies our strength.